Go for it.
All right, 3, 2, 1, and look at that. It is time to go live for a Monday edition of Bid Nerds. Hello, everyone. My name is John Polnik. I'm the host of Bid Nerds, along with my counterpart. He is the expert with a capital E, Michael Deeb. This is your daily nerd out on the most interesting cars on Cars and Bids, and bring a trailer. Welcome, everyone, to a week of Bid Nerds. How's it going, Michael Deeb? Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas, JP. It's forgive me, it's a pitch black out here. It's a rain yesterday in San Francisco, and the home living room studio is very dark. We have every light on in here. Anyways, struggling to wake up this morning on a Monday. It still feels like a holiday to me. It's very strange. The city's quiet. How about Vegas?
You know, for everyone that's watching, you may have picked up that we are not in the same place. Michael Deeb is in San Francisco, the Bay Area. I'm on the Strip in Las Vegas. And yeah, it's actually very gray and gloomy looking. We had Cars und Cafe yesterday, and I woke up in the morning, got ready to go. We do a car show at the last Sunday of every month in the downtown Las Vegas Arts District, for those of you who don't know. In the 3.5 years, almost 4 years that we've been doing the show, it has never once rained on the last Sunday of the month. And yesterday morning, looking at the weather forecast in the morning as I was grabbing convertibles and getting ready to go, I'm like going, there's a 60% chance of rain. And once again, it did not rain on Cars und Cafe. It may have rained somewhere else in the city, but it did not rain downtown. So we had a nice dry event, and everyone had a great time. And it always never ceases to amaze me. People show up to our car show, and it was just a great time at the Good Wolf. Very good time.
Yeah, we should tell our audience that Cars und Cafe is a primarily Porsche and air-cooled car show. It's very German. All cars are welcome, but it's very cool for the Porsche and the Volkswagen crowd, and occasionally a grip of Audis makes an appearance.
Yeah, and we actually had, excuse me, you would have really enjoyed it. We had a really cool mix of classic Mercedes that showed up. Cosworth 16-valve showed up. What? Yeah, a 190, which, it looked almost identical to yours, which we have not actually seen in the metal yet.
Nope.
There was a really cool, a 123 wagon? Is that what? Of the same era.
Probably W124.
W124. And then a gull-wing Mercedes, a 300 SL from, I don't know what year is that, like.
Yeah, late 50s.
Late 50s, yeah. So that was kind of a showstopper.
And gull wings bring like minimum 1.2 up to 1.6 or $7 million. So in Las Vegas, basically 4 houses on wheels showed up.
And we saw him come around the corner, and I came sculling over. I kind of knew that he was coming, and so I had a really good spot set up for him in the very front. But he's like, no, I'm going to park in between these 2 Volkswagen vans. It was awesome.
That's awesome. Yeah, you got to love that. The car culture in Las Vegas is awesome because the people, for the most part, have their feet on the ground, and they're a very cool community. Cars and Cafe, last Sunday of every month in the Arts District, in the parking lot adjacent to the Good Wolf. You should check it out. I had massive FOMO yesterday that I couldn't be there, so I'm glad it went well.
Well, we missed you. I'm sure we'll have you down here for January's show. For the first one of 2021, sure to be a better year. New Year's Eve is coming right around the corner. All right, man, let's get to some cars. You want to talk about last week's cars?
I'm going to segue into, I'm not sure if I'll ever go to Cars and Cafe again, because after last week, I don't know that you and I could be in the same parking lot without it being an escalated fight. You kicked my ass last week. The final score, I'm just going to get right to the punchline, was 13.
All right, just hold up. Just so people know, because we get new viewers all the time. We're a new channel, and so we do appreciate you guys coming here. Michael and I keep track of our bids. He is at a disadvantage because he always goes first, so we have Price is Right rules. But I'm still just way better at it than him. I'm just going to go with that. I'm just going to take it, right? So we're keeping track, and where did we wind up at the end of last week and with last week's cars?
Yeah, so I'm starting to realize that JP didn't invite me onto the show for my expertise, but just so he could beat me up. So on Monday, John had an incredible day. This is probably the worst day I've had. We looked at a 2002 Mercedes G500 on Cars and Bids. I looked at it around 25.5. JP bet the under at 22.5, and that turned out to be a great guess because that car sold at $19,750.
Are you going over the whole week?
Yeah.
Oh wow. Okay. Yeah, I'm not queued up for any of those cars but
Okay.
I do have Friday's cars. So let's just do a total for each day, and then let's go over Friday's cars individually.
Yeah.
Sorry guys, we don't do any show prep. We just wing this shit.
Yeah, we're winging it. So, anyways, on Monday, JP got 4 correct, and we had a draw on a 911 twin turbo, that race car, which was really interesting. On Tuesday, I fared a little bit better. I had 3 wins on the day, and John only had 2. So that was probably my best day of the week. The following day, John returned the favor. You got 3, and I got 2. And then we didn't have a Friday show. So Thursday, which was Christmas Eve, we did a show strictly with B&T cars. Bring a Trailer was the only auction site that was closing auctions on that day. John, you won the Ford GT. And it was really interesting, too, because that car went over both of our bids. So I was at $335. You were at $340. The car sold for $343,000. This auction was interesting because each of the 2 players that were fighting over the car used up almost the entire 2 minutes of time before they put their next bid. The close of this auction took over 35 minutes. It was very interesting. There was also a 308 GTB. That was my only win of the day. I said 75,000. You bet the over at 80,000, and that car hammered at $66,750 for my only win. You got back on track with the Bentley Flying Spur. I said 129. You bet under at 125. We were way off on this car. That car sold at $88,500.
Wow.
Again, John, if you remember, this is a 5,000-mile car that was 200 and I think either 15 or 230,000 brand new. So here you go, 5 years later, just out of warranty, you could pick up that car for about 40 cents on the dollar. It's an incredible value.
That is unbelievable, and I would have thought that the book value would have been more than $88,000. I mean, that's another one of these cars that, again, people think that we sit here and we look up the NADA values, or we get out our dealer books, or we're winging it here, and this is a car that, I mean, I feel like you could have gotten more money on CarMax for this car.
Absolutely.
And it'd be interesting to go back and look. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that was poorly sold. That reserve seems absurd to me. Like, I don't understand how they talked them into it, but maybe it was a revenge sale. I don't know. You never know what's going on. The next lot, JP, was really interesting. You and I actually, you did some marketing on this lot because this car had an accident on its Carfax, and we kind of bantered back and forth about whether or not a quote-unquote bad Carfax should or would or could hurt the value of a car. I kind of guessed conservatively that it would, and I thought because this car's auctions seemed to not have a lot of action, that it was languishing and it would only sell or at least hammer at around $53,000. And you and I lamented that a white early NSX is a rare car. The low miles and the excellent condition should bring more money, and that this car's true value should be around $85,000. You took the lead and bet the over at $55,000, and there was a lot of late action on this car, and it sold at $75,000. Now, I would assert that that's still below what that car should be. So I'm wondering if the Carfax prevented it from getting into the 80, 85, 90,000 that it should. At 75, it's still well bought. But it certainly it helped our theory that the Carfax shouldn't hold it back. And in this instance, the NSX community rallied around it, and somebody bought that car closer to what that car should be worth. Instead of letting it languish. So it was very interesting close of auction on that car. $75,000 and it sold. And then the last one was the Imperial LeBaron. I said 28.5. You took the over at 30, and that car brought $31,250. Well sold and well bought for your 4th win of the week. JP, you had 13 wins this week to my 6. You more than doubled me up, and we had one draw. Nobody got a Yahtzee, and we failed to get our act together on Wednesday to do the pick of the week on the Jaguar, so we didn't have that one. But I will tell you, based on where my guess was and where that car hammered, I think you would have won that one also because you would have bet the under very easily. And that one, so you probably had 15 and the pick of the week.
Well, I think that was kind of the thing. Is last week I think was a difficult week to sell a car on Cars and Bids and Bring a Trailer. It was the week, it was Christmas week. You got to wonder how much traffic the sites were getting compared to usual. It'd be really interesting to find out if it was higher, lower, or normal. I think there's a lot of pent up pressure right now. People are a little concerned about what's going on in the world. So, it seems in general that prices are low across the board, but not always. Some stuff is still surprising us with some pretty high hammer numbers.
Yeah, it's interesting, and I think that's typical. In down economy, I would say the medium stuff and the lower grade stuff will come back to earth. But at least in the art world, and perhaps maybe in real estate, I wouldn't say that it's the rule of thumb, but the real blue chip stuff usually continues to climb because the 1% can still afford to buy.
Yeah.
So it's like.
Well, it'll be interesting to see what happens with bids, with auctions this week. This is the week between Christmas and New Year's. In a traditional car dealership environment, this is the busiest week of the year, almost always. Right. This is one of the best times to buy a car. If you're a normal person looking to buy a normal car, if you're not someone who's looking for an enthusiast car, if you want a brand new Camry or Jetta or CRV or something like that, this is the week to go down to your dealership and buy a car because dealerships make their money by making sure that they reach certain tiers. The way they're compensated by the factory is much different than I think people think. So there really are.
This is the week to go down, walk in, talk to a salesman on a particular car, throw out an absurd number. And when he says he can't do it, say, fine, I'll go buy whatever the competition is and turn around and walk for the door. Yeah. I promise you they will chase you down. Yeah. You'll be in with a chance.
Yeah. So that said, it'll be interesting to see the numbers for the cars this week. Let's go ahead and get to the cars for this week. We're a little over already, so we got to get moving. Let's see what cars do we have today.
Yeah, we've got some weird ones. So we're going to start on cars and bids with a car I picked. I almost forgot this car existed. We're looking at a 2005 Subaru Baja Sport. JP, these were all all-wheel drives, but they came with two different motors. They're both 2.5-liter flat fours, but there's the turbo and the non-turbo. This one is the broke bitch non-turbo. It only makes 165 horsepower, and this car weighs 3,200 pounds. So I'm guessing it's slow. But this four-door sedan with a little tiny wagon back and a roof rack from the factory makes it one of the more interesting cars ever to come out of Japan for the U.S. market. I give Subaru a lot of credit for building it, and I think this car had a modest run. They're out there. They sold a few of these things. The turbo, to me, and I'm sure you would be the one to get because then it'll make like 220 horsepower or something like that, and the torque will match, which means this would be a fun car to drive around off-road and not care about. Anyway, super utilitarian, offered to us out of Houma, Louisiana. This car has 146,000 miles and I think a clean title and a clean Carfax. There you go. A very nice condition Subaru Baja Sport. One owner.
Yeah, this car is a follow-up to the Subaru Brat from the 70s and 80s, which was a way cooler car because, it comes from an era where people weren't so concerned about safety and every last little thing. The Subaru Brat had seats in the back of the bed, facing back, no seat belts. That's where you put the kids. I mean, and it was so much fun to ride back there. Oh, man, we had so much fun in the back of our friend's Subaru Brat. This thing, yes, the turbo motor has more power, but that is not the one I would buy. I would absolutely.
Really?
This is definitely the one I would buy. Yeah, because the turbo one's going to blow up. This one has 150,000 miles and has got another 200,000 miles to go. I mean, the little flat four engine, these things just go and go and go. With the turbo engine, you would have to have rebuilt this twice already. So, this is from a utilitarian point of view. This is definitely a great vehicle. It's got the pass through in the middle.
I see that. Yeah, that's crazy.
So and then that little cage in the back that allows you to extend the length of your cargo area. I don't know if you guys can see that, but it's kind of this little case. So that thing folds in. You can put your tailgate up or put your tailgate down, and then you've got all that extra room. So whatever. I mean, it's neat. A lot of these got beat up because they were so utilitarian. One of the mechanics at the Porsche dealer, not the Porsche dealership, sorry, Carl's place, the 900 series here in Las Vegas. One of the mechanics here, that's the car that he drives daily. So it's a flat four. There, take it as you will. Neat car, not as cool as the Brat. Not something I would ever really put on a list to own, but you got a bid for this thing?
I mean, I do, but who knows? There's not a big market on these. So it's at $6,700 on 17 bids. I mean, I don't think there's a lot of life left in it. I'm just going to say $7,800 and it sells.
If it were in the Northwest or somewhere other than Florida, I mean, again, Florida.
Louisiana.
Is it? Oh, the title is Florida. It's got a Florida title. So, I don't know. Does that mean it's lived in Florida most of its life? That always scares me. It probably smells really funky in there. The ad did say that the seat, the driver's side seat was reupholstered. So that makes me think that it was probably pretty mashed up. I don't know. This car. But there is a weird following for these. Would you say 7,000?
7,800. I'm thinking
7,800.
$1,100 left in this auction.
I'm going under. I'm saying 7,500. I think it stalls out. I don't think it's really worth that much more.
Smart man.
All right. What do we got next? Interesting car, though.
Yeah, very cool. So, JP, you should tell our audience really quickly that you were this close to buying a BMW M Coup. I think the one you were looking at was black on black and an S52, a 99, if I remember. Mm-hmm. This one caught my eye simply because we were just talking about that car you almost bought. This is an 01. It's an S54, which I should say, the 3.2 liter inline six BMW M Coupe with the individual throttle bodies making 315 horsepower. This car is offered to us out of Sarasota, Florida, with 45,000 miles on it. It's had 7 owners, but still really low miles, and looks to be in very nice condition. The S54s are obviously crazy desirable. Limited slip differential. Not a lot of fuss. These cars aren't particularly heavy. They're like 3,200 pounds, and then 315 horsepower. Just a really cool car that I haven't thought too much about in a while, but we reviewed one on the show, and then you almost bought that black one. And man, this car just got me going, so I thought we'd take a look. Sitting in an interesting auction, Pete. There's only been one bid, and this car closed in just about 3 hours. But the one bid was this obscure $45,160. So this could wind up being, I feel for the consignor here because there's no action on the car. There's a lot of comments, but not a lot of action. What do you think? What do you make of this mess of an auction that this one bidder has kind of screwed the progress that these auctions normally make?
Yeah, this car has low miles, which I like, but I hate, it's out of Florida, but I don't believe this car lived in Florida. I think it actually lived in Colorado, and I think that's why the seller is selling it, because they're moving to Florida, and they're like, well, there's no curvy roads there. So, but, the owner has only had it since August or something. So I feel like there's something a little fishy on this one. I feel like this is actually someone who bought it to kind of flip it, and now they're moving. I don't know. I'm not gonna knock the seller on this one. I think this is a really, really cool car. The S54 definitely makes it something special. You're right, the one I was looking at was an S52, and even the S52s with the lower amount of horsepower, a good 60 horsepower less, is still an incredibly fun to drive car. So with the extra power, these things are just rocket ships. I love the color. I love the color combination. But this weird, that is definitely, 45,000. That is kind of the number, really, what this thing's worth. If it had fewer owners, if this was like a 1 or 2 owner and had a little bit less fishy story, or the owner had it for a longer amount of time, I'd say it could, I've seen some of these get up there in the 50 range. It does have low enough miles to make that make sense.
I would agree with you. I was thinking this car, under normal circumstances, should be in the mid to high 50s, actually.
Yeah. I'm going to say, this is an interesting tactic from someone who obviously really wants the car. And honestly, I think it's going to work. I can't imagine there's a bunch of people going, let's start going from here. So do you got a guess? You got a number? You got a bid? You just said 50s.
I did, and that last night I think I wrote $57,000 down, and then this morning I changed it to 55. I am losing faith in this by the minute, hand over fist. I'm going to go 51,000, and that's only if 2 or 3 more bidders surface. Otherwise, I wouldn't be surprised if this thing closes at that one bid, and who knows if it sells, whatever.
That's exactly what I think is going to happen. I think it's going to close at this. It's not like, okay, well, if I swoop in at the last second and get it for 45, 46, I'm stealing it. I mean, it's kind of the number, and you got to get it in Florida or wherever that. I mean, it's just, I'm, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to say it stays. I'm going to 45, 160, which is where it's sitting right now.
Good guess there. All right, cool.
All right.
So there we go. All right, we're going to stay in Florida, and we're going to stay on Bring a Trailer, but we're going to jump over to Stuttgart and look at a I think, beautiful Minerva blue metallic 1987 Porsche 928 S4. This is a manual gearbox car, which is really cool. But JP, when you get to a photograph of the seats on this car, would you stop and let our audience look at the interior? There's something strange going on with the inserts on the seat that I don't think came from the factory. That's got these blue leather bars and blue piping on what is essentially an all-black interior. I should also mention they did the door cards as well. The door panels have a blue leather. Other than that, this car looks pretty straight up. It's an interesting car offered out of Fort Lauderdale. It's got just 57,000 miles. The S4 brings the 5 liters 32 valve V8 up to 315 horsepower, and that's significant because up to that point, the European cars were making 30 and 40 and 50 horsepower more than the U.S. cars. But I think in 87, when we got the 32 valve head, the horsepower difference between the cars was much closer. There was much more parity between the U.S. market cars and the European market cars. And so we jumped from like 240 horsepower up to 315, and that made a big difference. These are great driving cars and a pretty decent value if you can find a nice one. If this were my car, JP, I would take the car straight to an upholsterer and redo those inserts and the piping in black. And then I think you'd have yourself a really great car with decent miles that looks like it's been driven. Prices on 928s have been moving in the right direction. It is interesting that the interior is kind of weird on this car, and it's out of Florida. That being said, there's some action on the car. We're looking at an auction, JP, that's had 23 bids, and action is just under 28,000 with 4.5 hours to go. There you go. What do you think?
Something strange things are afoot at the Circle K in Florida here, man. This car, as a Ukrainian heritage individual, I'm going to tell you, don't buy a car from a guy named Dimitri at a car dealership in Florida. Okay, this thing is B to the S. I love the way it looks in general. You know, the color is fantastic. You know, whether or not this the crazy blue piping was done recently or back in the 80s doesn't really matter. Here's the thing. This car's out of Florida.
Yeah, that's
right. They say in the ad that it needs a timing belt service. They recommend that you get the water pump done. Okay, you know what? Those are the things that need to be done on this. And you're a car dealership. Why wouldn't you just do that and make people happy? It's because they know something. I'm going to just say straight up, these guys are liars with a capital L. You know, there's nothing worse than this just pissed me off to no end. When I read the ad, it says, the air conditioning unit is functioning, but needs a recharge. BS, okay? That is a bald-faced, complete lie. Anyone who has a Porsche from this era knows that, okay, just because the pump is working or just because you turn the knob and something's functioning, if it's not blowing cold, it is not functioning. It's just turning things, all right? And that could cost you literally $10,000 to repair. Just because the belt is spinning and because something is going on does not mean it's anywhere even remotely close to functioning. And you know, Dimitri, I'm calling you out. I'm pointing at you, Dimitri. You know that you are lying. The air conditioning simply does not work. And if you just said the air conditioning doesn't work, and we don't know why, then maybe I could trust a guy named Dimitri selling a blue 928 in Florida in Boca Raton or whatever. But right now, we know you're full of crap.
No, Fort Lauderdale, where all
Fort
the
Lauderdale. Who
are.
cares? What's the difference? Honestly, I mean, we're talking about Florida, a dealership. Yeah, this car. Run away, people. Run away. I mean, it's already at $27,000. It's got 4.5 hours to go. Please don't buy this car. If you're considering buying this car, I feel so bad for whoever's at this.
JP, this car is going to sell. It's got 23 bids, and I'm guessing somewhere around $25,000 to $32,000. This car hits its reserve. It's going to sell. So
someone is going to buy a heartache. Bad
totally,
way.
Totally. Yeah, so I actually think this car is going to reach $32,500, and I think it's going to sell at that price. And somebody, JP, I don't think you're wrong at all. Somebody might be sorry. There could be a massive money pit here rolling out of the truck that you have delivered to you, your Minerva Blue 928. What's your
whatever you pay for this car? Add $10,000 to $20,000 on it to make it work. This thing is a nightmare. I don't care that it has low miles. You're in trouble. Whoever buys this car. You said 32.5.
Yep.
I don't necessarily disagree with you. Heck, I might even go on the over in this one. I'll go 33.5 just because I think dumb people are going to be like, oh, it's so pretty and blue and it's cool. It looks great. I want to love this car, but I have no trust in Dimitri. I think Dimitri's a liar. There it is. I'm calling you out, Dimitri. Come on the show and tell us otherwise. There it is.
Budget. There you go, folks. Budget for the AC, the timing belt, the water pump, the leather interior,
and all the other things that Dimitri isn't telling you about.
Yeah, and then the $5,000 worth of things you can't see. Mm-hmm. All right, so we're going to jump back over to cars and bids really quickly. This is a no reserve auction, folks. 2002 BMW X5 3.0. So that's the inline six that I believe has no turbochargers. One owner car, 72,000 miles. But JP, the reason why you picked this car, I can tell right now, is because it's got a 5-speed manual. You and I are both like softly infatuated with these early luxury SUVs that were offered with a manual transmission, because nowadays you can't get one. So these things are becoming harder and harder to find, and this actually has reasonable miles. There is mention of some corrosion on this car. I don't know that the condition's all that great. I was never a fan of the early X5. I thought it was the ugliest iteration of the early SUVs. Of all the manufacturers that went out and made one of these things, I thought the BMW was the ugliest, and they're certainly heavy cars. So I don't imagine it's as sporty as your Cayenne with a manual transmission. But what do you think of this car that's offered to us on a no reserve auction with 71,000 miles out of Fairview, Pennsylvania? It's pretty ordinary looking. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it really is it's your basic bitch. I mean, the thing is, these cars were less expensive than their automatic or Tiptronic or whatever counterparts. You know, maybe you saved $500 on a $50,000 car, or it was more than that. I think it was maybe like $5,000 less than a Tiptronic one or something. But they were very rare. Very few people wanted them. Very few people asked for it or ordered that. So it's pretty cool to see one out there. This one seems okay. Seems relatively clean. The miles aren't too crazy. The 3-liter engine is a very, very, very reliable BMW powertrain. I mean, certainly more reliable than the horrible automatic that came with these.
Right.
You're going to have electronic gizmos going bad all the time. Your window regulators are going to go bad. The buttons that operate the fans and all that kind of stuff are going to fail. You're just going to be constantly dealing with little stuff like that.
Yeah, they mentioned some of the LCD screens were already starting to cloud over on this particular listing. Yeah.
And those LCD screens are terribly, terribly expensive to replace or repair if you even bother. But there was one of these on Cars and Bids months ago that was done really well. It had a suspension lift and big tires and the roof rack and all that kind of stuff. I think cars like this, when you're talking about these SUVs with the manuals, the GTS manual goes for a huge premium on the Cayenne. The standard Cayennes with a manual really aren't commanding a massive premium unless they've had some other stuff done to them, like the bigger wheels and tires, roof rack, that kind of stuff, make it look a little bit tougher. Mine, we won't talk about mine, but I think this is an interesting car where it's sitting at right now at $10,500, 16 bids. It's out of Pennsylvania. It's got 70,000 miles on it. That's really low miles for the year. But that's still way higher than this car I really think should be going. But at the same time, I mean, what's a 3-liter? What year is this? I'm sorry, 2002 X5 3-liter with an automatic is barely worth $5,000. I mean, maybe that's a $4,000 or $5,000 car if it's cheap, if it's in good condition. So this car is already asking a 100% premium over,
which is to your point, that's a GTS premium because it's a BMW, which we just don't see them as often. We seem to see the Porsche ones, but maybe it's because we're always looking for them. That being said, JP, I'm guessing this car is going to land at $13,000. Do you think there's some life left in it still?
Yeah, I mean, I'd sure like to see that. That would bode well because I am going to be selling my Cayenne sometime soon. So I'd love to see the manuals continue to climb there. I don't know if it's going to quite go for that much. The unbelievably beautiful one that was sold here months ago that had all the off-road stuff, that one only went for, I don't even think it broke 13. But that one literally had 100,000 miles more. I think I would rather have that one. I mean, that one was just so nicely done. I'm going to say 12 and a half.
12 and a half. All right.
Yeah,
cool.
I'm actually going to go under on this one. But I hope you're right, and I hope it goes over. I'd really like to lose this particular prediction.
Skin in the game. Skin in the game. Okay.
Yeah. All right. Last car of the day. What do we got?
Okay, so we're going to jump back over to Bring a Trailer, and we're going to look at a 1996 Chevrolet Corvette. This is the commemorative edition with a 6-speed manual. This car does have some miles, 44,000 miles. It's offered to us out of Woodland Hills, California. That's up near Malibu and Calabasas. So that's a great area. I do believe the wheels that are on this car in the photo are wheels from a later Corvette, and it looks like the original wheels, which look like the ZR1 5-spoke, almost like a Starfish. I think those wheels are included with the sale. Despite it being a commemorative edition, which is mostly cosmetic, these cars did get a power upgrade. So from 300 horsepower out of the 5.7-liter pushrod V8, these cars made 330 horsepower, which is interesting. But they were not made in limited quantities. I want to say they made like 1,600 commemorative editions. So
in Corvette speak, that's limited quantity.
That's crazy to me that they would suggest that that's an edition. It's just a different model. Like, I don't understand it. But anyways, that's Chevy, that's GM, that's the bean counters at work. But here you go, manual transmission, kind of a light silver sand dollar seat. Let's do it this way, JP. In 96, you would have been looking at a 911 Carrera that would have had 280 horsepower. These cars weren't particularly heavy, so I would say it probably weighs about the same, but made 50 horsepower more. And certainly with a 5.7-liter motor, I'm sure it made a lot more torque. So you get a sense that this was a really quick, really fast car back in the day. But there you go, commemorative edition, collector edition Chevrolet Corvette 6-speed. Junk. I'm not interested. But anyway.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting to me that this car was so long in the tooth. That body style was released way back in 1983. As a model year 84, but I remember seeing these in 83. Just plastic. I mean, you look at the interior of this car and you go, wow, I mean, the American car designers were just so completely out of touch with what design was. I mean, especially you could tell that they were trying to be design forward with these goofy looking seats. And it was just such a miserable fail on every level. When you look at a car like this, what I see when I look at it is the sad truth that even the design department was governed by the finance department, and everything had to be parts bin and sharing. I mean, there's like Reliant car stuff in here. Everything is plastic. To Chevrolet's credit, the very next car was the C5 Vet, which was awesome for its time. The C5 Vet was a massive leap into the future and was a frankly fantastic car. It's not something that I want. I'm not a Corvette guy, but you have to respect the power of this car. I actually think that the C4s should be having a moment. I mean, it's kind of like the 300 ZX of the 80s that we were talking about the other day. You get so much bang for the buck. You get the target top, you get all the power, and this one has a manual. If it's not a lot of money, the kids should be all over this thing.
Yeah. See, now ZR1s have held their like value really, really well, and they have really incredible seats. You know, the ZR1 seat looks like a lazy boy at Brooks Brothers,
right?
And then a Z06 is it's a real performer. You know, Z06, those cars rev and they made 400 horsepower. That's
hold on a second. Hold on a second. I want to ask you a question. You say the ZR1s have held their value. I haven't found that to be true. I guess we need to figure out, what do you mean by held their value? I mean, they're worth $20,000, even if they have low miles.
I thought they were bringing more money. I know for a while they were $50,000-$60,000.
Oh my gosh!
I thought ones that had miles were bringing 30, and the lower mile ones were still bringing real money. So we'll have to look at that. I'm sure one will come up, and we'll get to dissect it.
Yeah.
But still, they've depreciated less than all the other Corvettes, as they should, because there's more content to what you're buying. Would be the case. So the whole point I was trying to make is that if C4s are going to have their moment, I think we would see it, in my humble opinion, we would see it first in a rise in ZR1 and Z06 values. And then that should bring up the lesser cars. Or maybe the reverse happens. Maybe these cars come off these got scraped off the sidewalk. Instead of selling for $7,000, they start selling for 17. And then Z06s and ZR1s bring more money as such. I don't know. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah. I mean, I think the reason, I mean, it's tough for everything from a ZR1 to something like this, just because the sheer amount of them that there are, just like you said.
Oh my God.
You know, I mean, there's just no shortage of these darn cars.
Yeah.
But that's always what's driven the youth enthusiast market. It's not what the best car is. It's the car that the young kids can actually afford. A 20-nothing-year-old can go out and get a 300-something horsepower version of one of these for, under $20,000. And I mean, and then do all kinds of crazy stuff to it. I want to see what a kid is going to do to a car like this. But sadly, I don't know if that's going to happen. All right. So it's sitting at 14.5. What's your bid?
Yeah. So it's on 18 bids with 14,500. Again, out of Woodland Hills, California. JP, I put $19,000 and it sells at that price.
Okay. I don't think it's going to get that high. I'm going to say $18,000. And I actually don't even think it'll really get that high. I'm just, I mean, I think the ZR1 is definitely, if you're going to be in that price, you can get a ZR1 for $20,000 with 40,000 miles on it, 50,000 miles on it, and that's just so much better car. This thing just looks weird. It just looks weird. Sorry, guys.
Well,
sorry.
It's got the wrong wheels on it. That's
can't do it. Yeah, and then you throw that in too. I mean, if it really was if it's this collector edition, it should have all the original stuff, and this one does not.
The emblems on the car are chrome. The wheels were painted silver, and this guy tinted the windows like limo blackout tint, and then bought second set of wheels and painted them shiny black. So the car is awkward to the eye.
The owner of this car probably wears khaki shorts with pleats in them, and has white socks up to his knees with his
Well, you said you wondered what the kids were going to do to these cars. This could be one of them. I mean, this could be what the kids do, So
maybe. What do I know? Okay, it is. I'm not a kid. Well, there you go, guys. I mean, I think these are 5 really interesting cars. I mean, that's what we do is we nerd out on the most interesting cars and bids and bring a trailer every day. This has been a Monday edition of Bid Nerds. I think we're going to end it here. Michael Deeb, anything you want to say before we jump out?
No, we're off to a good start.
All right, guys. Thanks for finishing off your 2020. We're going to roll right into 2021. We've got episodes every day of the week except Friday because that's New Year's. There are no auctions that day. Love to see you tomorrow right here in the same place. Make sure you subscribe and like and share the channel. We are a new channel. We really love your help. Thanks for watching, you guys. Bid Nerds. See you tomorrow.